Hello and welcome. I'm Anand Naidu, filling in for Riz Khan. How does one maintain one's sanity and human dignity after nearly 3 decades in prison, and what does one learn about oneself in the process? A new book sheds light on Nelson Mandela's journey during his 27 years behind bars, where he faced torture and solitary confinement. Conversations with Myself was written with the 92-year-old icon's blessing and is based on his notes, letters and recorded conversations. It's a personal portrait examining the leader's human side, faults and frailties included. On today's show, we ask, what does it take to triumph over adversity? Remember, you can send us an SMS or email, and of course we'll include them on the show. I'm joined now by a man who shared many intimate conversations with the man known as the Son of Africa. For his fight against apartheid, Ahmed Kathrada was sentenced to life in prison with hard labour alongside Nelson Mandela. Mr. Kathrada was released in 1989 and later elected to South Africa's first democratic parliament. Thank you, sir, for being with us on the show.
Thank you for having us on, Anand.
Let me start by asking you about the president. How is President Mandela? He's 92 now, and we know that he has been ill. We last saw him at the World Cup final. How is he doing now?
Well, he's as well as can be at that age. He tends to tire if he has many hours, but generally he's as well as can be.
Okay, let's get to the book itself, which has just been published. President Mandela is sometimes portrayed as a bit of a saint, a savior, someone endowed with very extraordinary powers and qualities. Now, I want to look at a quote here from the book, and that did concern him. And in the book he writes, he says, "One issue that deeply worried me in prison was the false image I unwittingly projected to the outside world of being regarded as a saint. I never was one, even on the basis of the earthly definition of a saint as a sinner who keeps trying." Now, this book is very much an attempt to dispel that, isn't it?
It is. Just repeat that. It is very much
an attempt to dispel that
oh,
picture.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the importance of this book is that whatever he wrote was not meant for publication. That's the last thing he had in mind, that it will be published one day, especially his letters, his private notes and so forth. So that is really the importance of the book. What he is writing there, what he is saying there was very private, most of it, and now it's exposed to the public.
When did he come to the realization that he was being regarded around the world as this iconic figure?
Well, he made that comment already in prison, but it's become much more now since he left prison, and he keeps on repeating the same thing. Not a sinner. I've never been a saint rather. Never been a saint, and I'm not a saint now.
No, this book is.
Then, of course, he always.
Right, go ahead. Sorry.
He always emphasizes that what he achieved was not the achievement of an individual, but of a collective.
The book is a collection of his letters, his diaries, his conversations. And in this book, we see him more as a husband, a father, and also as a political leader. Was this most of the material that was written during his years on Robben Island?
No, as far as I can make out, as far as the letters are concerned, they were letters that were never posted by the authorities. So he only became aware of those letters after he came out of prison, when they were found in his prison file. The other thing relating to prison was the little notes he kept on his desk calendar. Some of them were cryptic notes which only he could understand, and others were quite obvious. But then, of course, there are the notebooks he kept while he was president, and also the intention he had of completing a book about the presidential years. So that he never completed, but those were after he came out of prison. And then, of course, those were the conversations, the taped conversations.
You mentioned
in about 19.
Go ahead.
Now, I was saying that those taped conversations were in the early 90s, about 92, 93, I should think.
Okay, you mentioned the fact that he wrote some letters while he was in prison on Robben Island. You were there as well, and you say the letters were never posted. And as I understand it, the letters that were written by prisoners on Robben Island were subject to the censor at the prison there. And then that censor could either forward those letters to the person to whom it was addressed, or it would just be kept at the prison. Was that right?
That's right. You see, not all these letters were kept in the files, but this collection that are in the book now were never posted. They were found in his prison file after we came out of prison and had a look at his prison files.
Should we be surprised by the fact that the prison authorities actually kept these letters? One would have thought that they would have destroyed them.
Well, bureaucracy, there's no logic in bureaucracy. They literally destroyed hundreds and thousands of birthday cards, for instance, which one, I suppose there were too many to keep in his file, so they destroyed them. And that we got from somebody who was working in the census office at the time. Others, a handful were kept in his file for some reason or the other. So one can never know now how many hundreds of correspondence was destroyed.
Now, when one looks at this book that has just been published, how different is this book from his autobiography, the first one that was published, Long Walk to Freedom?
Well, it's very different in the sense that a lot of it, or most of it, is private. He wrote it for himself. The notes he kept was for himself. The little notes on the calendar was for himself, and the letters as well. So in that sense, it is unpublished work in his own words. Now, there's nothing comprehensive in existence which is in his own words. Almost everything else is about him, but not by him. So that is the importance of this book. It's his own words. Even in the transcribed portions, he is answering questions himself.
Now, you say he was very, these are his private writings. You spent a great deal of time with him on Robben Island. Did he confide in the other prisoners about his personal life, about his anguish, as we see in the book, over his family, over the sorrow about losing his son at a very young age? I suppose the question is, was he a very private person, or did he confide to the others while in prison?
Well, obviously there were things that he did talk to fellow prisoners about, to his close friends. It may differ. One doesn't know. For instance, his closest friend and confidant was Walter Sisulu. Now, one can never say exactly how much he confided in him, in Walter, but there are other things that he was a bit more open about, I suppose, when it related to the way his wife Winnie was treated. That often he used to tell us about whenever he had information. But as I say, it's difficult to say what he kept back.
You mentioned his wife there, Winnie Mandela.
Obviously.
Yes.
No, obviously there would be quite a bit in his correspondence that he would not have, particularly, for instance, the romantic letters. He would not be talking about those things. He'll be talking about other things which, with the hope of those letters getting through, only to discover a few years ago, in fact, when a special branch, security branch policeman somehow managed to keep 2 notebooks of his, which were draft letters that he had written. And then, of course, the others were found in his prison file.
Okay, Mr. Kathrada, we are going to have to take a short break now. Stay with us. We'll have more of our discussion in a moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back. An independence referendum in southern Sudan next January is likely to break Africa's largest country into two. What could the impact of such a split on the region be? Discussing those issues with me are actor George Clooney, star of blockbuster hits such as Syriana and Up in the Air. He is the co-founder of Not on Our Watch, an organization that aims to focus global attention and resources towards ending mass atrocities. And also author and human rights activist John Prendergast, who has worked for peace in Africa now for 25 years. Gentlemen, let's get back to the questions. I want to go straight to the phones. We have Ansem, who is calling us from Normandy in France. Ansem, what is your question?
It's good evening here, and most of the time, I don't know, in the news, we get lots of the fear there will be problem from the Northerners about the South referendum. I thought for the war that's been going on for the past 20 years in Sudan, this should come as an opportunity for the North to breathe a sign of relief and said, okay, you guys don't want to stay with us. You guys can go and have your own state. So why is this fear that the North is going to cause a lot of problems in Sudan? That's just what I've seen not to understand.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ansem. Let me put that question to John Prendergast.
Well, I mean, there's a number of issues that would plunge the two parties back to war, not the least of which is indeed this border and where it resides. The movement of that border north or south, very small distance, will dictate future revenue streams of literally hundreds of millions of dollars because of the oil fields that straddle those borders, and there are deep-seated histories of bordering communities that represent interests on the part of both parties. So, you know, there are all these issues that are part and parcel of the combustible cocktail that is Sudan 88 days before the referendum. And it's our view that the Arab League, working with the African Union and the Europeans and Americans and the Chinese working together, can actually defuse that ticking time bomb before it explodes. And that's really where our attention and energy is going to be placed.
John, you mentioned an important point there, and that is the involvement of the Chinese and the Egyptians as well. In some respects, is this becoming a bit of a proxy war because the Chinese have interests in Sudanese oil? The Egyptians have interests in water supplies from Sudan. So is it becoming a bit of a war between those two sides and the United States and its allies on the other side?
No, I don't believe it is. That is an insult to the Sudanese. It takes agency away from the Sudanese. They are very much in control of their own destinies, the Northerners and the Southerners, and their own interests. In fact, it turns out the interests of China and Egypt, for different reasons, is actually in peace. China will suffer greatly, I think, in interrupted oil supplies if war breaks out again in Sudan, because the first targets of the Southerners, if the war does erupt again, will be those Chinese oil installations. The Egyptians will lose terribly from war between the North and the South, because the flow of the Nile northward will be interrupted, or the additional flow which is necessary for Egypt's long-term development needs will not be able to be addressed through the kind of cooperative development projects necessary for increasing the flow of the Nile northward if war erupts. So both these nations, with great influence in Sudan, have an interest in peace, and we'd like to see Cairo and Beijing make a much greater contribution right now during these next 88 days towards the peace process that hopefully will avert war.
Okay, let's go to Chicago. Khalil calling from Chicago. Go ahead, Khalil.
Yes, hi, how are you doing, sir? First of all, my question to both your guests. My understanding is through the media and through the past agreements between the North and the South that there is a border agreement between both of them where the Center Abyei, which is the, what we call it, disputed area or whatever you call it, okay, belong to the North according to the agreement between the North and the South in case of separation. Now, listening to your program and my understanding from your guests, as if there is no such agreement exists and they have to redraw or to define those lines again, borderlines again in case of separation. I would like your comment about that.
All right, Khalil, let's go to George Clooney. George, how does that 2005 agreement impact what is happening right now?
I'll let John answer that since he was there for it and has a real clear understanding of that one.
You know, that 2005 agreement on Abyei was brokered largely by the United States, and basically it created a commission that would determine the boundaries with a number of experts. They got together, came up with their decision about where the boundaries would lie for Abyei, issued the determination. The Khartoum government rejected it. Shortly thereafter, we saw the violence break out, and the government of Sudan and its allied militias burned the town of Abyei, displacing 60,000 people, burned the town to the ground. We visited there. Then after that, an agreement was brokered to refer the case of Abyei to the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. That Permanent Court of Arbitration issued its ruling. It again was not implemented by the authorities in Khartoum. So we've now had 2 times where independent assessments have determined borders for Abyei, and 2 times the Khartoum authorities have not chosen to respect those international determinations. So we're hoping that this particular negotiations process will provide a very clear end state for where the boundaries of Abyei are and who gets to vote in the referendum January 9, and international guarantees for respect for the results of that referendum. That is going to be probably the biggest challenge that the mediators have in the prevention of war between the North and the South in Sudan.
Okay, we have another caller calling from right here in D.C. Kidani, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm asking him because I'm from that area. I'm from Eritrea.
Yes.
Yes, Chairman. How you doing today? Yes. My question is, I'm from that area. I'm from Eritrea. So the problem is we make too much attention to the Sudan. Okay, that's good to be separate from Sudan, but when the Eritrean government make a war with Ethiopia for 30 years, nobody make attention to us when it dying thousands.
Okay, all right, thanks you, Kidani. I suppose Kidani was making the point there that there are many crises in Africa. Why are you concentrating just on Sudan? I suppose one can't concentrate on all of those things. George, can one?
Well, no, you can't concentrate on, well, you have to concentrate on all of them. I've been to the Congo. We've been to Darfur, which is a different issue than North-South. And you know, thousands and thousands of activists and missions and all those people, everybody's been involved. The truth of the matter is, we were late to all of these, and we have a chance to be ahead of one. So we're bringing a lot of attention, as much attention as we can. And believe me, at a time in the middle of an election that is as polarized as any you'll ever see, you know, Senator Lugar, who is a Republican, doesn't need, you know, Hollywood standing next to him, doesn't want Hollywood standing next to him. They wanted, we're there because they want attention brought to the fact that there is something that can be done if they get the political will, not just here, but across the world. Okay. And that means avoiding bloodshed on all sides. It means avoiding atrocities, it means avoiding war. Okay. And so, you know, yes, are there other places? Of course there are other places. The Congo is 4 million people, and it's still a bloodbath and still brutal. It's getting better, but it's brutal. We have to focus on all of them. You can't just focus on one. If we focus just on North-South, Darfur is going to suffer. These all have to be sort of filtered in. But here's the thing. There's a fire about to start. You can put it out now, or you can go in later and you can have to replace all the furniture and fix everything. Right now you got a chance to stop it before it starts.
George Clooney, John Prendergast, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. A reminder, you can follow our program on Twitter. We'll keep you notified on upcoming shows, and you can send us questions and comments to pose to our guests. On the next show, Nelson Mandela, The Personal Stories. The latest book, Conversations with Myself, is an intimate portrayal of this iconic figure. We speak with Mandela's close friend and anti-apartheid activist, Ahmed Kathrada. Make sure you tune in for that. We'll see you next time.